Hello and welcome. My name is Jodi Scholes. I'm your instructor for the MBLEx review class. And I feel so happy to welcome you here today. And as we review the anatomy of the lower limbs, specifically, we're going to look at feet, ankles today. And just do a nice solid review. We'll see how much material we can get through as the time allows. And as usual, we do this class in 3 parts. The 3 parts are, the first part is I'm going to talk to you today. Let's see. Yes, I'm going to talk to you today about how you can't mess this up. So in the first part, I like to get your mind straight, get you tuned in, dialed in, for today's session. And you've made the time to be here. And so let's get present. Get yourself a glass of water. You've got about 2 minutes before we start with our content for the day. In the second, so the first part is we're going to talk about how you can't mess this up. Secondly, in part 2, we're going to go through our lower limbs. So the lower limbs, if we get to legs, that would be awesome. But we're going to start with feet, because often I don't get to feet. So we're going to review the bones of the feet, the anatomy of the feet, the ankle. Oh, it's such a yummy place to work and massage. And so many people just they brush over the ankle for sure. But maybe you're not spending a ton of time on the feet. And this is a beautiful place to work. So we're going to learn a little bit more about it. And then in the final part of class today, we're going to dissect questions. Yes, we're going to dissect questions. All right. So let's start from the beginning. You are here today because you imagine that you see yourself as a licensed massage therapist. Not everybody has that vision for themselves. And this may have started even as far back as when you were a kid. In fact, put in the chat. Let's see, you know where the chat is? Here. Put in the chat when you first knew that you wanted to be a massage therapist. Maybe it's when you got your first massage. I remember thinking when I got my first massage, I'm like, wow, this would be cool to be able to do this. Maybe it's when you were a kid and you were always the one rubbing people's shoulders. You were the one rubbing people's feet. You were the one they said wanted you to, So I love it. John chimes in, 8th or 9th grade, when I started trading massages with my mom. There's some place, and you remember, and maybe it was when you toured the massage school and you saw what was actually happening. So my point in sharing this or asking you about this is because there was a time. There was a time where you knew. And the interesting thing about massage therapy is that it's not a job. It's actually a calling. Yeah. I see some other comments here. Ashley started with horses because she wanted to be able to help them and eventually moved to humans. That's very cool. I saw when I was 5, Kiara rubbing on people, but you just thought it was when I was 18. I see Migdalia. Yeah, there was some point where you were like, hey, I like this. I could do this. And for me, when I first started, I actually thought it was going to be a hobby. Yeah, I thought, well, this will be nice to learn. It'll be a hobby. But whether you intend to have massage as a hobby or to make it your profession, this is not just a job. This is a calling. You're answering the call. Yeah. And so because of that, that right there, that tells me it's your destiny. I know, big picture, huh? Destiny. Well, yeah, it's your destiny. It's part of your purpose in this lifetime. The word that comes to my mind is the unfolding of your spirit, the evolution of your soul. You might do this for the next 25 years. You might do this for the next 2.5 years. You might do this for 2 months. Ah, I see Migdalia saying it took me 20 years to go to massage school. Yeah, it's a part of what your soul is meant to experience in this lifetime. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but we're in the massage therapy field, right? So we can go woo-woo a little bit, right? And so for me, that's what gives me my enthusiasm to teach this class, to tutor, to encourage you, because I know that this is meant to be your work. And so because of that, you can't screw it up. Look, you can make bad choices, sure, well, let's say bad. You can make choices that don't serve you. Because in the bigger picture, what you probably learned in massage school is there's not really a right and a wrong here. There's a good choice and there are better choices. There are choices that serve you and choices that don't serve you. And so we're making a choice that serves us well, that serves the highest good, because you are meant to do this work. And when you get your license, and even now, as you're practicing your massage therapy sessions, some of you guys are just finishing school, as you're practicing, and if you're not practicing your massage therapy sessions, I really encourage you to go ahead and get a person on your table, to get people on your table, to get in there and do it. As you're practicing your craft, you're sending a clear message to the universe that you're ready, but also right here, boots on the ground, you are making your zip code a better place to live. Yeah. By you doing massage, by you doing a massage therapy session, you create a ripple effect in your community. I want you to imagine throwing a stone into a calm lake, into a calm pond. Just tossing that right in. And what happens? Right? You see that ripple effect? This actually happens when you give a massage. Because you have improved the general well-being of your client, you have given them a sense of better well-being. They're in a better mood. Let's hope, right? They're in a better mood when they leave your session than when they came in. How many of you have experienced that? Person's in a better mood, right? Than when they came in. All the time, right? Riva, I know you have. You're transforming lives out there right now, girl. And because of that, we come back to our ripple effect. That person is a nicer human. They're nicer to their coworkers. They're nicer to their partner. They're nicer to their kids. They're nicer to their dog. They're nicer to themselves. They're more compassionate with themselves. And so just because you're doing massage therapy, you are creating more joy, more compassion, more happiness in your zip code, in your town, in your circle of influence. And that's a really good thing. You are meant to do this work. And so let's get you ready to take a test, huh? Yeah. All right. Let's get you ready to take a test. All right. We're going to switch gears into part 2 of our session. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Very good. And our slideshow from. And we are going to go through the anatomy of the foot to start, foot and ankle. And I hope you can see on the bottom of this screen, it says, thank you. Makes me crazy when I can't see everything. Thank you to the doctor. Thank you to the doctor. Can you type his name in the chat for me? Because I can't quite see it. Oh, I love it that Caitlin said she didn't know she wanted to be a massage therapist until later. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And Dr. Muhammad Faiz. Oh, I got it now. Okay, I can see it. Great, thanks. I just want to say thank you because a lot of these are his slides, and I participate in a service. I guess it's called a service called slideshare.net, and can get some of these great slides for you from doctors and nurses. So let's get started. So the foot is divided into two different surfaces, the dorsal surface and the anterior surface. And I'm going to just pause here for just a minute because I really wanted to do his slides second. I wanted to do my slides first. Yeah. All right. Thanks for your patience. Here we go. All right. So we're going to be talking about both the leg and the foot. We're going to see some anatomy of that. I want to say thank you not only to Dr. Muhammad, but also to, I'll tell you in just a minute. Sorry, my brain is like short-circuiting a little today. Let's move into the anatomy of the leg and the foot. And this is the regions that I wanted to review with you, because on your MBLEx exam, sometimes you'll just see a region of the body, and you'll need to identify where that is in the body. We have, for example, when we look at anatomy, we have biceps femoris, we have biceps brachii, right? Biceps femoris tells us we're in the leg. Biceps brachii tells us we're in the arm. So let's review these regions just so you know and are able to identify them with on the MBLEx. The popliteal region is right behind the knee. The patellar region at the kneecap. The tibial tuberosity is a bony landmark right at the top of the tibia. We have the Pes Anserinus. I always see Pes other stuff, but we have a bony landmark here. It's the attachment site, gastroc, with the two heads of the gastroc. Take a look here. You can see that heart-shaped muscle, the gastrocnemius. It'll be called the gastrocnemius on your exam. Here we have the region of the tibialis anterior. And also this is where your peroneals live. This is a beautiful place to do massage, by the way. Lovely to just get your thumbs doing a little bit of petrissage right there on the tibialis anterior, and also the peroneals right here on the lateral edge of the leg. Here we can palpate the shaft of the tibia, the calcanean tendon, so the tendon that leads to the calcaneus. The anatomical name, Achilles tendon, is the common name of our calcaneal tendon. See, it's nice and thick, and it attaches right here to the calcaneus. We have the lateral malleolus, which is the end, the distal end of the tibia, and the medial malleolus. That is the also on the distal end of the tibia and medial. We have here the tendon of the tibialis anterior that strikes right up into there. This is also the area of the retinaculum of the anterior aspect of the foot. And we've got the tendons here, extensor digitorum longus tendons. All right, so extensor digitorum is going to be referring to the foot. Let's look at this topographical look. We've got the ball of the foot, the arch, the heel. This is the metatarsal region. Please take a note here, metatarsal. Metatarsal. Those are your tarsals, right? I think of tarsals like talons. You know, like an eagle has talons in the foot, metatarsals, because what are here? Your metacarpals, right? So your metacarpals, carpal bones in the hand, tarsal bones in the feet. So we see again that tendon of the tibialis anterior. It comes straight down here, attaches to the arch, the latitudinal arch of the foot. We see the calcaneus through the skin, also just known as the heel. So when you're doing massage therapy, it's lovely to explore this region, exploring the skin and the fascia of the ankle. I strongly encourage you to mobilize this front area. It's also known as the Mortis. There's a little divot. In fact, if you're sitting, go ahead and cross your leg. Palpate your medial malleolus. So if you cross your leg and you make kind of a +4, so your knee's sticking out, but your ankle's sticking up. So you've got a little hole there. Go ahead and touch your medial malleolus. Come forward and flex and extend your foot. Flex and extend your foot. And you feel that little divot in the middle. There's a little divot right there in the middle that will close as the tibialis anterior tendon flexes. But when you point or extend your foot or leave your foot in neutral, you can find that little digit. Just move that skin around. This is a really nice area to work. It's also called the Mortis. All right. Moving away from the ankle, here's the tallow crural joint. So we have two bones here that we want to make a note of. The talus is in the front. The calcaneus is in the back. We'll see those again in just a moment. Those are bones of the foot. Here are metatarsals in the middle. We'll see this again. The red here is the phalanges. We have phalanges in our fingers. We have phalanges in our toes. Metatarsals. The talus is the anterior bone that articulates with the tibia. The calcaneus is the heel. Let's go ahead and move up. We see here is the tibia. And the smaller bone that's a little lateral, a little posterior, is the fibula. One of the ways I remember the fibula is that when you tell a little lie, it's a fib, right? So the fibula is a little bit smaller than the tibia. We move up here. You see a lovely picture of the patella. That's your kneecap. And here is the head of the femur. And would this be called the distal head or the proximal head of the femur? So go ahead and stick that in the chat. If this image we're seeing right here, is that the distal or the proximal end of the femur? Tell me. Let's see, I don't see anybody chatting. Is it proximal or distal? I'm talking about the femur here. All right, I'm seeing some answers. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yes, it is the distal end. Correct. So the distal is further away. Typically, we're talking about the midline of the body. But even if we're straight out or straight up, we're normally talking about a long limb. Proximal is higher, distal is lower, closer or higher. And so the distal end of the femur articulates with the proximal end of the tibia. Gotcha? All right. Speaking of bones, we've already talked about our bones of the foot, but let's do a quick review because these metatarsals, these tarsal bones, are sometimes named in your MBLEx questions. And so the heel bone is called the calcaneus. Also, I have seen questions, podiatric medicine. So a podiatrist is who takes care of the feet. So the foot doctor is known as the podiatrist. And so we have the calcaneus here. That anterior bone is the talus. Here are our tarsal regions, tarsals, talons. Tarso-metatarsal, and so here's our metatarsals in the middle here, middle, right? Metatarsals, middle. The tarsals here are like our carpals in our wrist, right? Metatarsals are in the middle, tarsals being feet, and then our phalanges. And sometimes you'll see this type of language, the interphalangeal joints. Hopefully not. If you're seeing that type of a question on the MBLEx, that means you're getting a difficult question. And that's actually the good news. Yeah, the good news. Because the questions on the MBLEx get a little harder as you go along. They don't get a little harder, they get a lot harder. It's what's called a computer adaptive test. And so I'll speak to that again in just a moment. But if you're seeing a difficult question, that's actually a piece of good news, because you have most likely answered a few questions correctly in this category, and the questions are getting a little harder. It's challenging you. The other good news about getting a difficult question on the MBLEx is that it's worth more points. Yes, and your whole goal is to score 630 points on this test out of the 100 questions. And so some are weighted a little differently. So if you see a term like the interphalangeal joint, know that this is a tough question, but now you know also where it is. It's in the toes. There are some pathologies of the foot. We're not talking about pathology today, but I want to cover them. Pes planus, that's flat feet. That is a decrease in the medial arch. So we have two arches of the foot, the medial arch, the longitudinal arch, and then we have the latitude, the latitude arch, the latitudinal arch. It's the arch that makes kind of the bridge through this metatarsal area. So that bridge is the latitudinal arch. And then we have the medial arch, which is the one we normally talk about, right? That longitudinal one. Plantar, another pathology of the foot is called plantar fasciitis. That is an inflammation of the plantar fascia. It's a common overuse injury. The other pathology I wanted to remind you of Achilles tendonitis. So anything with that tendonitis, I-T-I-S, arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis, those are all itis. Those are all inflammation. Pathologies that involve inflammation. So the patella is the largest sesamoid bone in the body. And a sesamoid bone is simply a bone embedded into a tendon, but it's the largest bone. In the online learning center, you'll see a video. In fact, I may even show it to you today, of the varus test and the valgus test. And this is testing for the ligaments of the knee to see if they're strong, weak, or injured. So let's take a quick look at the bony landmarks of the knee and the leg. So here, this is a side view, the lateral view, but actually an anterior medial view of the right knee. So it's an anterior and a medial view. I'm thinking of it as more medial. Here's the femur. The distal end of the femur, the patella is embedded into the patella tendon. Here's your tibial tuberosity, a bony landmark for some of our muscle attachments. And this is another attachment site. This Pes planus is flat feet. Pes Anserinus. Sorry, I don't know actually how to say that second part. This is a divot in the leg where some muscles attach. So if you see this, it's actually an attachment point. Pes planus, though, is flat feet. May try and throw you off with that one. That's all right. So hopefully that's a little bit better. So let me go back and show you this plantar flexion. So there's the ligaments of the knee. That's where we left off. Plantar flexion, we see this gastroc, It turns into the soleus. This is plantar flexion. So going up on our toes, flexing the bottom of the foot, plantar flexing, which is the antagonist. So synergists are muscles that work together. Movements are where we look at the antagonist. So plantar flexion, these are the opposite muscles of dorsiflexion, which we're going to see next. Gastroc, soleus. Let's go ahead and take a look at the opposite of plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. Dorsal side of the foot, so the top of the foot. And this would be an antagonist to plantar flexion. Point, flex, right? So if you were in dance, it might have been called point and flex. In anatomy, we call it flex and extend. This would be flexion of the foot, dorsiflexion of the foot. And we saw plantar flexion in the past, but point and flex is another way to say that. So here we have the major mover for dorsiflexion, right here, that plantar tibialis anterior. And then digitorum longus and hallucis longus. Hallucis is the name for the big toe. All right, let's see. That's a good reminder for me for a time check. Ooh, all right. So, very good. How are we doing so far? Yeah, excellent. And so just a little brain break while we switch gears and we move into Dr. Muhammad's screen. All right, so now, good. So this region is the lower limb. It's the distal region of the tibia, as we've said. And we're going to just review a couple more things. That you have seen before. I want to walk you through these slides. We've got our tarsals, our metatarsals. We're seeing this as a review. Take a look. This is a different view of the calcaneus. You can see clearly that it's the heel. Talus is what articulates with the tibia. Our phalanges also have distal and proximal, even though they're not super long bones. Sometimes you'll hear something called referred to as the tarsal tunnel. It is on the medial side, post-medial side of the ankle. Getting a little detailed here. Again, hopefully you won't need to know all of this anatomy. I would like you to know that the tibial nerve does run down through this tarsal tunnel. There's also another quick look, a little bit this white stuff, that's called the retinaculum. It's really very fascial. It's like very white and fascia. You're going to see a few other pictures here that I really liked in this presentation. Going to just leave you with the contents of the tarsal tunnel, not that you're going to need to know them. I liked the picture. Look at this plantar fascia. This is that retinaculum. I'm going to go ahead and hide this so you can see it. The tarsal tunnel, the retinaculum. This is where the calcaneus would be. Another lovely image of that retinaculum of the foot. And my alarm is going off. Yes, very good. Just a couple more pictures of the anatomy of the foot. So plantar fascia is plantar fasciitis is a pathology of the foot. Itis, plantar fasciitis, would be in the plantar fascia. Another common pathology is Achilles tendinitis, and that is of the Achilles tendon. Here we go. The medial longitudinal arch, right? This medial arch. And then we have a transverse arch. So it is the arch that, like where your shoestrings are, it goes across the top. So I wanted you to just be aware of the transverse arch in comparison to the longitudinal arch. Feel free to read these if you want to go back and review. There we go. So coming across like your shoestrings is that transverse arch and the medial arch. All right. Let's get to dissecting some questions. How does that sound? Super duper. Okay. So name this specific bone in the foot. We have covered this bone. We talked a little bit about it today. See, this is a different diagram. You're not going to see a lot of diagrams on the MBLEx, but let's take a look. So here's the bone. Are we talking about, let's go to, are we talking about the talus? Are we talking about the metacarpal? Are we talking about a phalange? Or are we talking about the calcaneus? Now, one thing we know about metatarsals is those are in the foot. Metacarpals, carpal bones, are actually in the hand. So we know it's not metacarpal bone. And this is our technique that we're using dissecting this question, right? We're understanding the entire question, and then we're eliminating wrong answers. So we know it's not the metacarpal bone. What bone do you think it is? Yes, it's the calcaneus. Very good. Very good. Okay, ready for another? This little purple muscle, purple area of the foot, it attached the gastrocnemius to the calcaneus. So it attaches the gastroc to the calcaneus. Is that the plantar fascia, the tibialis posterior, the Achilles tendon, or the soleus? What do you think? All right, it attaches the gastroc to the calcaneus. Yes. Now can we eliminate one of these answers? We can eliminate plantar fascia, right? Because plantar fascia is on the bottom of the foot. That's where the plantar fascia is. All right, best guess. Is it the tibialis posterior, Achilles tendon, or soleus? It's the Achilles tendon. Yes. Very good. Very good. All right, put your thinking cap on. Where the tarsal, the fibula, and the tibia meet to create a joint. Now, we did not mention this in the lesson. I did mention it's called the Mortis, but maybe we can figure this out from the description. Okay, let's take a peek here. Transverse tarsal joint, talocrural joint, tibiofibular joint, tibiofemoral joint. All right, so we see it's the tibia, the fibula, and the talus. All right, transverse tarsal joint. Now you know tarsals, where are they? They're mid-foot, right? Okay, so that doesn't seem right. Talocrural, tallow is in there, good. Tibiofibular joint, tibiofibular, tibiofemoral joint. Femur, there's no femur here. All right, let's eliminate that answer. And the correct answer is, boom, it's actually called the talocrural joint. And so it's also called the Mortis, but where these three come together is called the talocrural joint. All right. Oh, yes, so here we go. The ankle joint is a hinged synovial joint that's formed by the articulation of the talus, tibia, and fibula. So talus, tibia, fibula, that makes up the ankle joint. And together, those three borders form the Mortis. So Little look at inversion and eversion here of the ankle joint. All right, flat feet, what are they? Flat foot, medial longitudinal arch has fallen. Okay, are those called fallen arches? Pes planus, Pes Anserinus, a lack of arch support. Well, we know it's not a lack of arch support because that's just describing, maybe what caused it. So this is fallen arches, Pes planus, or Pes Anserinus. Best answer, please. Best answer. All right, ready? Pes planus. Yes, Pes planus is the scientific name for fallen arches or flat feet. Actually, flat feet. Yeah, which implies a fallen arch. Yeah. Okay, we saw this today. And also in your links, you will see a link for this video again so you can see it big. This is a classic test of the medial collateral ligament. It is called the blank test, the various test, an ACL tear, the varus test, or the valgus test. Should be able to get to 2 answers pretty quick here. All right, ready? An ACL tear is something different. We're testing the anterior cruciate ligament is something that's in the anterior. ACL, anterior cruciate ligament. All right, can we eliminate one more answer? We can. It's not called a various test. The 2 tests that this could be is the varus or the valgus. And it is the valgus test. So the valgus test is for the medial collateral ligament. Here's a look at that again. And that's just how you do it if you want to review it. You can pause if you need to here. And thank you to orthofixar.com for the image. All right, I think this is our last one. Okay, so this is a muscle that crosses the knee joint. Its origin is at the distal femur. The insertion is at the calcaneal bone. It's responsible for ankle plantar flexion and knee flexion. This is the only muscle. This is the muscle that crosses 2 joints. Is it the soleus, posterior tibialis, peroneal muscles, or the gastrocnemius? We know it's not the peroneals because they're in the front. Ready? What does it look like? You know this muscle. It's the gastroc, the gastrocnemius. That's correct. All right, I think that's it. That's it. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, for participating. Thank you for your patience with the shaky internet and the funky slides on some of those. I'm signing off for now. My name is Jodi Skulls. I am your instructor for the MBLEx review class. We meet here on Thursdays, not on YouTube, but in the Patreon community. You can find out more about getting involved in the live classes and seeing all the recorded classes, as well as learning a little bit more about that online learning center. Our online learning center has unlimited practice exams and also 7 full-length videos and 7 subject matter specific quizzes. So you can ask me about that by writing to me at Jodi@jodiskulls.com or just send me a message through my website, jodiskulls.com. I'll put the link available, or hit me up on the Patreon community. All right, see you soon. Bye.